Okay, yeah, thanks a lot, Art. Yeah, well, I'm very happy to be introducing Alison Sato today, because about a year ago, I decided I should try to get more healthy, and so I took a class, and then I had 2 sessions with Alison, and they were both wonderful, and she's extremely knowledgeable and extremely nice, so that's a great combination. So let me just read the summary that we wrote up. So the title is, What is a Healthy Diet? Alison Sato will discuss what makes up a healthy diet, the extent to which different types of meat, dairy products, and eggs can be part of a healthy diet, and what easily accessible and healthier substitutes for these foods exist, if any, will also be discussed. And just to tell you a little bit about Alison, she's worked in the Nutrition Services Department of the Palo Alto Medical Foundation for 2 years now, and has been a diabetes educator for 6 years now. She's been a registered dietitian for 12 years. She's also a certified diabetes educator. She worked for the University of Miami and University of Arizona medical schools before moving to California, and she has a bachelor's degree in food science and human nutrition from the University of Hawaii and a master's in nutrition science from the University of Florida. So please give Alison a warm welcome. Thank you, Alison.
Okay. Well, hello. Can you hear me now? Oh, hello! I always have some kind of technical difficulty at work. I do a lot of classes and seminars, and I'm really, really happy to be here. It's a different group, and it's a Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday. I'm glad it's not raining today. So thank you, Brian, for the nice introduction. And I feel like a midget over here, but I'll try my best to stand out. Okay, all right. Brian graciously gave me 30 minutes to kind of go over what healthy eating is. And I think the most difficult part is kind of trying to summarize everything that's out and published in the scientific, well, health science world into 30 minutes. And I think I tried, and I hope I succeed. But I titled my talk, Eating for Optimal Health, because hello? Oh, there we go. All right. Because I think instead of going into individual different diets, I think most people are kind of interested in just knowing what will improve their health in general. Okay. So I looked at in terms of what evidence are out there. Currently, there's a lot of new diets that's coming out that looks very fashionable, jazzy, and promise to have a lot of benefits. But I wanted to know what is out there in terms of long-term benefits. So when I did some research, I looked for these objectives. You know, what kind of diet has been proven to to have less health problems in the long run. So I looked at, what kind of diet will give less heart disease, reduce high blood pressure, reduce the risk of prediabetes or diabetes, and obesity, and in turn increase the quality of life. So again, I looked at diets out there with longitudinal outcome. So I started out by looking at what is recommended currently. And of course, we have the US dietary guidelines. What is it recommended? So it does recommend several diets that are very similar to each other. One is a Mediterranean type diet. We always talk about how Mediterranean type diet helps with heart disease. So what are those? We also have something called the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. Now, some of the researchers at Harvard University about, I want to say almost 6-7 years ago, branched off from the DASH diet and did a study called Omni-Heart Diet Trial. And which that stands for is the Optimal Micronutrient Intake Trial for Heart Health. And it's based on DASH diet. So those three are recommended by American Heart Association as well as National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, which is part of the National Institute of Health. So I wanted to kind of go over those diets briefly before going into some recent suggestions that came up this year, 2013. Earlier this year, there was a study that came out, that was suggested, of course, the Mediterranean type diet does reduce mortality. As well as June of this year, they had a study that came out that vegetarian type diet does lead to longer life. So the suggestion seems to be that eating less red meat or vegetarianism might actually improve the quality of life and increase longevity. So I'll be touching upon that shortly as well. Okay? All right. So going on, I'm going to go over the Mediterranean diet first. And before I go on, can everybody hear me okay? All right. All right. Okay. So Mediterranean diet. So this is the study that just came out in February 2013 in Journal of American Medical Association. So the study was called the Prevention con Dieta Mediterránea. I don't speak Spanish. I'm pretty sure I just murdered their language. But it was a shorthanded called PREDIMED diet. They found out that the Mediterranean type diet reduced cardiovascular disease by approximately 30%, mostly strokes. Okay. Now the media went wild. It was in the New York Times, all the CBS, NBC, ABC, all the web went crazy, saying that everybody should be eating Mediterranean diet. Now one of the things that wasn't really clear was this study was done in Spain when everybody was pretty much eating a Mediterranean diet. So it wasn't really clear when the media reported, what they really meant. Okay, so there's a lot of confusion among people on what Mediterranean diet is. So the question is, what do people in the Mediterranean region really eat? Okay, so now the study again was done in Spain. It was not a low-calorie diet. Okay, a lot of people were actually kind of overweight. Okay, the only slight difference was that there was 3 groups in the study diets. Some ate more nuts, some ate more olive oil, and some actually ate more meats and sweet than others. But again, fundamentally, since they're from the Mediterranean area, they ate a Mediterranean diet. So those are the only slight differences among those 3 groups. There were no control group. Okay, so, but again, it showed that Mediterranean diet reduces cardiovascular disease by 30%. And the results actually came in from the group that ate a little bit more nuts and olive oil than the group that ate a little bit more meat. Okay, so I kind of wanted to show you in picture what a Mediterranean diet might look like to some people. Okay, it doesn't really show up that great. So what I have here is what some people think Mediterranean diet is. So I have a picture of a nice slice of pizza, which I guess it's Italian food. Okay, I have a nice big bowl of Caesar salad that's covered in Caesar dressing and Parmesan cheese. I have on the left lower hand corner a big heaping pile of pasta with tomato sauce and meatballs. Okay, and on the right lower hand corner I have a couple triangles of baklava, which is phyllo dough with some either walnuts or pistachio covered in rose water syrup. Very yummy. Okay, but these are all what some people might consider a Mediterranean type of diet. Okay, but unfortunately, this is not what researchers consider Mediterranean diet. The type of Mediterranean diet that researchers refer to is something like this. So it's hard to see on the slide, well, on the projector, but on the right upper hand corner, I have a salad, a green leafy salad that has garbanzo beans, sliced tomatoes, onions, and whatnot, with a little bit of tuna. On the left upper hand corner, I have a big bowl of fruit salad. Below that, I have pasta primavera, which is typically half vegetable and half pasta. And on the right side, there is a salad of dark green leafy vegetable with some garbanzo and pine nuts in there. So what typically the Health Society mean in terms of Mediterranean diet is high in beans, whole grains, fruit, vegetables, fish, and nuts. It's low in red and processed meats. It's also low in saturated fat and moderate in alcohol. So it's quite different from what I showed you on the slide prior to this slide. Okay. Does anyone have any questions at this time? Yes. I'm sorry? Dog confit. Not actually, so that's a good question. So in the next couple diets, I'm going to show you what's included in a Mediterranean type diet. And definitely dog confit, very delicious dish, but not necessarily. Okay. All right, so DASH diet, developed by the National Institute of Health, is actually a Mediterranean type diet. Now, it's been around as long as I've been a dietitian, and Brian kindly introduced me for being a dietitian for almost 12 years. It lowers, it's a diet that's designed to lower blood pressure without medication. And on average, it reduces by about 12 points. Okay? Now, since the introduction of the diet, they've had some research that's shown that if you're on a DASH diet, it also reduces the risk of cancer, stroke, heart disease, heart failure, kidney stones, and diabetes. And if you do want more information, I put the web link over there, but you can take a look at it. Now, some of the things that's a little confusion now with a lot of the low-carb diet craze is DASH diet is relatively high in carbs and low in fat. Okay? Now, so what the Harvard researchers did in the next diet, which is the Omni-Heart diet, is that they wanted to study if it really have to be a high-carb, low-fat, Mediterranean-type diet. So what they did is they standardized the calorie level. They didn't want to help people lose weight. They just wanted to know what will happen if they followed a diet that was similar in calories but different macronutrient profile. Okay? So they compared three heart-healthy diets. Now, one was high carb, which was DASH diet exactly, you know, what the DASH diet recommends. And they altered the nutrient profile by making one slightly higher in protein, okay, and the other one higher in unsaturated fat. Again, all three diets had the same calorie level. And to the surprise of the researchers, all three diets lowered blood pressure and improved cholesterol panel. So it didn't have to be a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. You could have some protein and you could have some heart healthy diet. Now, there were some minor differences between the diets, however, okay? So, but saying that, most diets, not most, all three diets reduced blood pressure between 13 and 16 points, which was similar to the standard DASH diet. Okay. It reduced the bad cholesterol, or the low density lipoprotein, or LDL, by 20 to 24 points, and reduced triglyceride by about 9 to 16 points. Okay, so the question was, please define what...
Make sure we get the
oh, okay.
mic over to them.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Sorry. The question was, please define points. So when I say reduce blood pressure by 13 to 16 points, let's just say that your blood pressure is 140 above 90. Then it reduced it from 140 to 130, for example. Okay, and similar with the LDL. If your LDL is 150, it reduced it down to 130 or 135. So that's what the points mean. Yeah. Okay. Now, like I said, they worked pretty well in reducing those markers for health, cardiovascular health. What they found out, however, that was very interesting was the higher unsaturated fat diet worked best to lower blood pressure and triglyceride. Okay? All right. So what did the diet look like? So when you're looking at knowing how much of different foods to eat, the next slide is going to explain how much each diet contained. Okay? So if you look at the DASH and OmniHeart diet, and this is standard calorie level of 2,000 to 2,100 calories. Now, DASH diet, again, has the highest carbohydrate content. So if you look at the serving size for each food, if you go down, the DASH diet has about 7 to 8 servings of grains per day. Saying that, a slice of bread or half a cup of other grains make up one serving. So if you eat 2 slices of bread in the morning, 2 slices at lunch, and 2 slices at dinner, and maybe 1 serving of grain, for example, cracker, at snack time, that will be considered a higher carbohydrate containing diet. Okay? All right, compared to the OmniHeart, higher protein and higher fat diet only had 4. So that's 1 slice of bread at breakfast, 1 slice at lunch, 1 slice at dinner, and maybe a serving of cracker at snack time. So it's considerably less carbohydrate content than the DASH diet. The biggest difference comes from the intake of vegetables. Now, DASH diet is by no means low vegetable diet. If you who's heard of 5 a day campaign? Meaning eat 5 fruits and vegetables a day. I think most people have heard that. So that is trying to encourage people for eating 2 to 3 servings of vegetable a day. So that's the DASH diet and OmniHealth diet actually recommends that you eat more than that. So it's almost like 9 servings of fruits and vegetable per day. Now, serving a vegetable is half a cup cooked vegetable or 1 cup of leafy salad green vegetables. So for the DASH diet, they're encouraging you to eat about 4 to 5 servings of it. And for the OmniHeart diet, about 6 servings. So that's a lot of vegetables. In terms of fruit, DASH diet recommends about 4 to 5 servings, and OmniHeart, approximately the same, but about 5 servings. Now, both were about the same in terms of protein intake, in that the total amount of meat and seafood eaten should be less than 2 servings a day, with 1 serving being about 3 to 4 ounces. Now, a 3-ounce serving of protein, it's about a dick of cards. So it's not that much. Okay? All right, so other ones are minor differences. But in general, to eat an omni-heart diet or a DASH diet, there are some tips to help you meet the requirements. So those are eat 1 to 2 servings of fruits at every meal and or snack. Eat 2 to 3 servings of vegetables at lunch and dinner. You can use nuts as snack. And have a serving of dairy at each meal and or snack. And use whole grain as much as possible. Now, there were 2 Omni-Heart diet. One was a little bit higher in protein, and one was a little bit higher in fat. So depending on which one you want to follow, if you look at the difference between the DASH diet and the Omni-Heart diet, DASH diet doesn't really give you that much fat. It's a high-carb, low-fat diet. The Omni-Heart actually gives you up to 4 servings of fat per day. So if you want to follow a higher protein diet, then eating less than 2 servings of meat per day, then you can reduce the amount of fat you use and increase the amount of protein. Okay, so it's not a very I don't want to say it's a restricted diet, but it does give you room to kind of play around. Okay. All right. So those 3 other diets are basically Mediterranean type diet that's recommended by a lot of the health agency out there. So National Institute of Health, U.S. Dietary Guidelines, American Heart Association, and whatnot. Now, it's not a high protein diet. It's not necessarily a high carb diet, even though DASH diets are a little bit higher in carbohydrate than the other 2. A lot of people eat a lot more carbs than that on a daily basis. Okay? If you look at the food intake trend in the last 30 years, the carbohydrate intake in America has jumped almost 50%. So a lot of people who are saying that I'm actually eating a low-carb diet are probably not eating a low-carb diet. You know, they're pretty much eating what they should be eating. So when I see a lot of clients at Palo Alto Medical Foundation at work, you know, I ask them, what are you eating right now? And you'll be surprised, they eat about 2 cups worth of cereal in the morning, which could have up to 4 servings of carbs in there, or starch, or grains. And on top of that, they're pouring 2 cups worth of milk. That's a lot of carbohydrate they're eating. So, you know, the diet that most people are eating nowadays are nowhere near this level of carbohydrate, even though we're calling the DASH diet a higher carbohydrate content diet. So if someone was to follow a DASH type of diet, you know, they're actually following a lower than usual carbohydrate diet. Okay? All right. Other thing is that right now, high protein diets are in, right? People say that you should eat protein with every meals and snack and whatnot, and it keeps you full. And to a certain degree, I do agree. Protein slows your digestion down, and it keeps you satisfied longer, that you might not eat other foods that might be less nutritious. Okay? But if you look at the studies out there, longitudinal study, meaning, you know, they follow people for a very long time, they're not eating a lot of protein in the form of animal protein. Okay? They might be eating a lot of protein from plant-based. So I do want to touch upon what a plant-based diet looks like because of this study that just came out in June. Okay? Now, this came out in the Journal of American Medical Association, and again, it was all over the media. Okay? And they found out that vegetarian diets was associated with all-over reduction in mortality. It was conducted at the Loma Linda University, and they followed almost more than 70,000 people, primarily of Seventh-day Adventists. Okay, so they observed them for about 6 years. So it was a pretty long study. To be honest with you, it's really hard to do nutritional study. Okay. Typically, and it's even hard to do randomized study on diet, because you can't really double-blind a diet and say, well, you're having a high-protein diet versus low-fat. If you eat it, you know it's going to be high-protein, high-fat. So most of the nutritional studies are epidemiological study, meaning if it's long-term, it's epidemiological study, meaning like they follow a group of people and they ask them questions. What kind of food are you eating? How much are you eating? What kind of cooking preparation are you doing? Some of the other studies that's been done where they put them on a certain type of diet and they provide all the meal are usually no longer than 12 weeks at a time. So within that 12-week study, you might see a positive impact. But the long-term benefits, we don't know, because we can't really keep them on that diet for 6-7 years. So this was a pretty revolutionary findings. Okay. All right, so they found a reduction in risk of hypertension, metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is it's a syndrome, a combination of comorbidity, including increased cholesterol panel, blood pressure, weight, insulin resistant, and all that. Okay, and reduction in diabetes and heart attack. They actually saw more benefits in men than women for some reason. One of the things that I do want to note that they found that in general, vegetarians tended to be a little bit older. They were a little bit better educated. They tended to be married, consume a little bit less alcohol. They smoked a little bit less and exercised more. And therefore, they were a little bit thinner than the non-vegetarian group. So because it was more of a epidemiological study, they didn't put people on a diet and exercise regimen. We're not quite sure if the higher education level attributed to lower comorbidity or morbidity. Okay, so that came out. All right, now, so that was very interesting because the people who were vegetarian had less health problems. So is there a reason to eat less meat? So I wanted to kind of know how much Americans were eating in general. So if you look at a lot of studies, on average, Americans tended to eat 8 ounces of meat per day. Okay? I'm not talking about when you go out to the steakhouse and eat a 12-ounce prime rib, but on average, 8 ounces per day. So we eat a lot. It's actually 45% more than what is recommended by the USDA, which comes out with the Food Guide Pyramid, and that got replaced by the My Plate. And we actually eat 3 times more than global average. So we eat a lot of meat. Okay? And our favorite meat is beef, by 60%. Okay? We also eat a lot of beef. Okay? Now, if you look at the studies done, that's been going on for almost 30 years, which is the Health Professional Follow-Up Study and the Nurses' Health Study, again conducted at Harvard Public Health School. They found out that if you eat 5 ounces a day of red meat, you have a 30% higher risk of dying than those who ate only two-thirds of an ounce per day on average. Okay. If you also look at different ways of doing statistics, they found that for every 3 ounces of red meat or processed meat you eat per day, the risk of colon and rectal cancer increased by 20%. And this was done at the National Cancer Institute and American Cancer Society. So, makes you kind of think, meat in general. Now, red meat have had other additional health concerns recently, and one of them being, like I said, it's not conclusive, but it's been said in a lot of settings, is that red meat contains a compound called TMAO, which is trimethylamine and oxide, which you don't have to remember. Okay. They also have some nitrate in the processed meats. Another thing is a lot of people like to burn their meat on the grill. We all know that those black stuff is not good for you. So there's a lot of studies coming out that all those three compounds present an abundant amount in the red meat, but not necessarily the other white meat or the white meat. Okay, or processed meat actually speeds up the process of atherosclerosis, which is the gunking up of your artery. Okay, so maybe that's one of the reasons we're saying that maybe red meat consumption should decline. Now, other reason to eat less meat was given, has been touted for environmental benefits. This kind of goes beyond the nutritional realm, but it's been said that approximately 1,000 tons of water is used to produce a ton of grain, okay? And it's mostly used to produce feed for animals. I didn't know this until I started doing this preparation for this talk. 60 to 70% of soy and corn grown in the United States is used for animal feed, okay? And water is becoming a hot commodity nowadays with water scarcity and all that. Now, another concern is waste. With global warming, some people believe it, some people don't. Methane is released from large amount of waste in animal production. And it's also produced from burping, belching, passing gas of animals. And it's considered 23 times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Now, I just put a slide in here because, of course, my talk is not about environmental impact of meat production. But if you're interested, there's a really good website called Environmental Working Group, and their web link is right there. It's ewg.org. Okay. All right. So if you consider all that information available, in a nutshell, this is kind of what is recommended. And again, I apologize that you can't really see this too well. The Barilla Institute, or Barilla Center, has come up with something called the double pyramid. So it combines, in terms of how much of each food group people should eat, on the left side. So again, the fruits and vegetables on the lower, the bottom, where the base is the largest. The next will be the grains, whole grains, and then olive oil and the dairy, and then the protein foods on the top. And if you look at the difference between how much environmental impact it has to grow and raise those foods, it kind of correlates with what is recommended people eat. So again, I apologize that you can't really see the graphics too well today. But if you would like to take a look at it on the website, you can go to this website. And I'm hoping that whoever wants the link to the website will receive it. Okay. The web address is on the slide, and I'm hoping that, sure. Okay. It's www.barilla, BARILLA, CFN.com/EN. It has it in 3 languages, Italian, English, and French. / and BCFN for you. But I think if you go to the barilla@cfn.com, it's actually on the right side where they have a link to the double pyramid. So even if you don't have the entire link to go to this particular pyramid, you should be able to navigate to that pyramid relatively quickly. Okay. So moving on. So I kind of wanted to go back to the Loma Linda study that just came out in June of 2013. So I kind of lumped all the vegetarians together and said that vegetarians had a longer and healthier lifespan than non-vegetarians. But we do have different types of vegetarians. Vegetarian doesn't mean that you don't eat any animal protein. So we have types of vegetarians here. The top one, the semi-vegetarians, or what people might call flexitarians. We also have pesco-vegetarian or pescatarians. We have lacto-ovo-vegetarian and vegans. So what are semi-vegetarians? And a lot of people like this kind of vegetarianism because these are people who consciously reduce their meat intake for health reasons, but still occasionally enjoy animal protein. So we do have a lot of people like this. The book that's really good that I do recommend, and again, there are a lot of different other books out there, is The Flexitarian Diet. So if you're interested in, becoming a semi-vegetarian, while, again, occasionally enjoying your meat, okay? Don Jackson Blattner came out with a really good book, okay? Or if you're not a book person anymore, because there's all sorts of fabulous information on the web, and you don't like hard copies and you don't own a Kindle, you can go to the Meatless Monday website. Now, Meatless Monday is a nonprofit initiative of the Monday campaigns. It's an association with the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. So, and they provide the information and recipe people need to start each week with healthy, environmentally friendly, meat-free alternatives. Okay? And their goal is to help reduce consumption by 15% in order to improve personal health and the health of the planet. There's lots of recipes on them and very tasty recipes. So if you're not a book person but you're a web person, I really do recommend you to kind of go through some of the fantastic recipes that's on here. And it's kind of hard to see because it's in red, but it's www.meatlessmonday.com. Okay? Okay? All right. So those are the semi-vegetarian and people who might want to try eating meatless once a week. Okay? Then we have the pesco-vegetarian or pescatarians. So these people are actually eating animal flesh, except for that it's only fish and seafood. So these are the seafood lovers. Their diets are rich in omega-3 fatty acid. It has all the essential proteins, and they do eat dairy and eggs. So these are the people who don't eat beef, pork, and chicken, and lamb, and all that kind of stuff. Okay? Okay? And then we go down to a little bit more restricted, which is lacto-ovo-vegetarians. Okay? So these people don't eat any animal flesh, but they allow dairy and eggs in their diet. Their diets tend to be rich in calcium and vitamin E. And if you look at most dairy that's available in the United States, they're fortified with vitamin D and A, so they're not deficient in any of those. And the last one, which is the most restricted, okay, is the vegans. They don't eat any animal foods. Okay. Now, and they do have to consider a lot of things before eating, because animal protein and soy are considered complete protein. So when you don't eat it, you might not get all the essential amino acids, which makes up a protein. So they do have to do something called complementing protein. Okay. For example, legumes or beans are low in methionine, which is one of the essential amino acids, but they're high in lysine. Grains are high in methionine, but low in lysine. So they're each deficient in some type of essential amino acid. So they have to eat it together in order to have a complete protein profile. They also might not get adequate source of calcium if they're not careful about it. Iron, they do have to eat it with vitamin C. Vitamin B12 is hard to come by in a vegan diet, and vitamin D also. Now, most vegans are very conscious, and they don't require a lot of assistance. And a lot of times when I do see vegan in my practice, it's the teenagers who are wanting to become vegetarian for some reason. And their diet consists of salad leaves, okay, a little bit of tofu, and fruit, and nothing else. And they are very deficient in a lot of nutrients and require a lot of assistance. So each of these vegetarianism, have varying degree of restriction, but with careful planning, even the most restricted vegetarians, will be able to get adequate nutrition. So why are people a little bit reluctant to eat less meat? Okay. A lot of people are worried that they don't get enough protein and calcium. Like I said, if you just want to try eating a vegetarian diet once a week, you're not going to be deficient in protein because most Americans eat 45% more animal protein than is recommended. Okay. Calcium, again, depending on if you want to become a vegan or not. If you're consuming dairy and eggs and other forms of other animal products, you probably won't become calcium deficient. Would I have to spend more time cooking? Okay, I don't know how to cook. Okay, namely, I don't know how to cook beans, whole grains, and tofu. A lot of times, if you are wanting to have other vegetarian sources of protein, you might want to experiment with tofu, tempeh, and seitan, but a lot of people in the Western society are not very familiar with this food, and they might have hesitation in cooking them. Okay? And a lot of times, people ask, if I'm not having meat, what is supposed to be my main dish? Okay? So again, this was a very short presentation, but just want to let you know there is help out there, okay? And again, most of the times when I do see a new vegetarian in my practice, one of the things that they ask for most is, do you have recipes? So I put a lot of website links over here that will provide you with a lot of recipes that you can try out, okay? All right. Okay, so nice and short, but any questions?
Okay, let me turn this up here. Hold on a second. Remember that we're going to pass the mic around. Someone's going to keep track of the people in the order in which they put their hand up. 5 hands went up simultaneously. That creates a problem at the beginning, so I'll have to work through them. And someone in the back is keeping track of all this. So be sure and speak into the mic like this, like this.
Like this, not like that, not like this, not like that.
Like this.
Okay?
Okay.
I need this thing here.
Okay.
It helps them to...
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so... you don't have to...
I just have a quick comment.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Just a funny thing about protein. The per calorie, there's more protein in spinach than there is in beef.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Per calorie, there's more protein in spinach than there is in beef.
Per
Because we're not
calorie.
getting protein.
So are you saying in terms of calorie density,
Right.
the amount of protein
Right.
is more in spinach than
So
beef?
you have 100 calories of worth of spinach, and you have 100 calories of beef. There's more protein in the spinach.
Yes, it is hard to get 100 calories worth of spinach, yeah.
Sandy, are you keeping track, Sandy? Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Here.
okay.
What is a processed meat versus unprocessed meat?
So processed meat is anything that has been cured, smoked, preserved, basically. So if you're getting a fresh cut of chicken or pork or beef, those are not processed. But if you're eating, for example, ham or turkey slices in a deli section, those are usually processed. Yeah.
I've heard that people over 65 or so should not have as much iron in their diet. Can you explain that?
Sure. Iron requirements in general for female and male are different after age 20 or so, to be honest with you. And that one of the reasons why female require more iron is because they're bleeding every month. Now, by age 75, most of you are not bleeding every month. So the iron requirements are lower. Now, if you are eating iron, there are certain degree of absorption issues. Okay, you can't really absorb that much iron from natural food source. So for that question, I would say that you shouldn't get iron from supplement, but it's okay for you to eat iron-containing food.
What about for men also?
For men also, yes. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, two quick questions. One is, are you aware of any undue influence by the meat and dairy industry to disseminate misleading information about the benefits? And secondly, which diet do you follow?
So the misleading information, everybody has, how should I say, bias. For example, the dairy industry wants to promote dairy consumption, and of course the red meat industry wants to promote red meat, and corn and soy industry has, and this and that. So yes, there is some bias into every advertisement or marketing out there. Anything specific that's wrong? Why? There's so many that I can't. All of it, there we go. All of it. I'm actually pescatarian. Yeah. I don't really eat, actually, mostly pescatarian. I do occasionally enjoy a little bit of meat. So I guess I'm more flexitarian. Because I do have a partner who's vegetarian. It's hard for me to eat meat and have to cook for him. But I do eat vegetarian, mostly tofu and soy products, about 3 to 4 days a week. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Sorry.
I was wondering how important a balanced meal is. We're talking about a balanced diet. If I wouldn't expect all my meals have to be balanced meals. Do I have a day to a week? How much?
Oh, so the question is, do I have to eat balanced meal all the time? And it's helpful if you want to eat all that. If you want to meet all the requirements. Maybe once or twice a week, if you only eat certain food, it's not going to be a problem. But if most of your meals and snacks are relatively well balanced, then you're probably getting all the nutrition that you need in terms of vitamins, minerals, protein, fat, and all that. So if you're just eating one type of food at meal, then it gets a little bit hard to do that. Yeah. Who has a microphone?
Hi, I had a couple of questions. The first one is I read somewhere that if you have too much protein in your diet, that it can cause you to lose calcium from your bones.
Okay.
And that increases the fragility of your bones. And then the other one I had a question about was genetically modified foods. And I've also heard that canola, soy, and what's the other? Corn.
Corn, okay.
Most of the corn and soy on the market in the United States now is genetically modified. So we're eating a lot of tofu, and then we cut back just soy milk and tofu occasionally, because we were worried about that. And could you put up that list of websites that you had up at the end? Because I'd like to copy down some. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the question was, does eating too much protein be bad for you? A lot of times, if you are having decline in kidney function, then you shouldn't really eat a lot of protein. And I do have to point out that one of the unfortunate side effects of maturing is that your function starts declining. So typically by age 80, you only have about 50% of your kidney function left. So if you're having a very high protein intake at a relatively mature age, it's probably not going to be good for your kidney. And the kidney does have a big role in maintaining bone metabolism. So, it does have a little bit of effect. There's a lot of study that's out called acid and alkaline in terms of calcium metabolism, which I won't go in. It does have something to do with that. Yeah. What was the question? Oh, genetically modified food, yes. So in this country, it is true. We have a lot of genetically modified food out there. And, a lot of the nutritional studies does not differentiate between if you're eating genetically modified food or not. So I can't really comment on the fact that, is it better to eat genetically modified soy or not? Personally, I think, that's a personal choice. I prefer that, it's not genetically modified, but it's out there, and it's not on the label, so it's hard for you to know. But soy food is good for you as long as you don't eat it in purified form. Yeah. Okay.
Hi. I have two questions. One is impact about soy. Aside from the concern that she has about genetically modified, there is also a big, thick book out there with the title something like The Dark Side of Soy. It lists about this thick. It lists all the potential harms of perils of soy and soy products, all kinds of problems that you can have. So that's one question I have, and your opinion on that. And my other question is, by the way, my second question is related to the fact that I've noticed that in general, whatever diet people are following, they exaggerate the benefits of it, and whatever they are against it, they also exaggerate the perils of it. For example, I've heard vegans claim that, oh, you can get all your calcium from vegetables, green leafy vegetables. Is it really true? And my question is, if hypothetically I were to become a vegan, what would be the best source of food-based source of calcium, not supplement?
Okay, so the first question is soy safe? Okay, I typically, I do have a reservation on that. I do not agree when people are taking soy protein discs and high protein cereals. If you start seeing protein where it's not naturally there, I think that's dangerous, personally. If you look at different cultures, since I'm East Asian, I'm just going to say East Asian, we've been eating soy for centuries, and we haven't had any known side effect from eating soy products. For example, natural soy products like soy milk, tofu, edamame, fermented soy products. I think the danger is if you're eating too much isolated, purified soy protein, which is really, really just everywhere nowadays, high protein cereal, high protein bars. If you're eating a high protein cereal and then a high protein bar for snack and a soy milk and a tofu, I think that's a little bit much. So my recommendation usually is try to eat soy in its naturalist form. And you shouldn't be able to get too much soy protein if you're just following that. Number two is that if you were to become vegan, is it possible to get all your calcium from vegetable plant source? And the answer is it's actually really hard. Okay, unless you're willing to buy calcium set tofu, which could be high in calcium, or calcium fortified soy milk, or this and that, it will be really difficult. Most soy milk nowadays are fortified with calcium, so if you're just using soy milk as a substitute as regular milk, then you should be able to get all the calciums, but if you don't like those products, it'll be very difficult. There are some high calcium vegetables out there, for example, kale, okay? pretty high in calcium. But the problem with kale and broccoli, collard greens, thank you, or Brussels sprouts, there we go, are high in oxalates, right? They're high in oxalates. Some of them are high in oxalates, and they're high in some compounds that reduces the absorption rate of it. So again, you need to do a lot of planning. And if you are not going to be able to drink some of the calcium fortified or eat calcium fortified products, then it's recommended for you to take a calcium supplement. Okay, all right. Who has there you go, yeah.
I had two questions, and I'm not sure where the source of this information originated, but as a breast cancer patient with estrogen sensitive, thank you, estrogen sensitive cancer, I have avoided all soy products. Now, does that make sense? Or I can't remember if my doctor told me or if I just read it somewhere. So,
so the recommend. So number one, I think it really depends on your doctor's recommendation in that case. I think, like I said, if you're not doing too much of the isolated purified soy protein, it shouldn't be to the point that it starts affecting your hormone level. Saying that, the recommendation I gave you is for general public who might not be having those hormone-sensitive health issues. Yeah.
I had one other short question about borderline diabetes diet. And if you just had a basic food group, a list, can you just recite it briefly?
Oh, okay. So one of the charts that I have here on the slides to be honest with you, if you were to come to me because you had pre-diabetes, these two will be the diet that we generally prescribe, and is pretty much recommended by the American Diabetes Association.
Okay, I just want to make an announcement. There was a woman just told me she brought some free soy grains, soy powder over here. It's free if someone wants it. So.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next question. Yeah.
All right. Here's a different question. Arthritis.
Yes.
Degeneration of the cartilage. Has anybody done any studies on? See, I heard if you when my knees hurt, I eat more chicken cartilage.
Okay.
And I do that for about a week, and it goes away.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
It goes away.
Okay.
So as you get older, you can't produce as much cartilage anymore. But no one's doing any studying saying, eat more cartilage, because you're not producing it, and that's that's a animal-based item there, mostly chicken.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that?
So we're a little bit deviating from our talk today, but so there's many different types of arthritis, right? And glucosamine chondroitin seems to help a little bit, but it's not conclusive. Cartridge has some glucosamine and chondroitin in it. So if you're eating cartridge for that purpose, it might replenish some of that compound. So I can't talk for all the arthritis subtypes that they have, and there's so many different treatment plans for arthritis, and one of them being excess weight, and I'm sorry?
Vegan source.
A vegan source? No, I don't know anything about that, yeah.
Over here, back here.
Not a question, I didn't hear you mention it. Both the Omni and the Dash recipes are readily available on the internet?
That's correct, yes. I'm sorry? DASH stands for, and I always get this wrong, so let me, okay. Dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And who has the microphone? Yeah.
Hi, I've been a vegetarian for over 30 years, and I didn't realize that for part of that time I was a flexitarian because only in the holidays I'd eat turkey. Not very much, but a little bit.
Okay.
But now I use tofu turkey and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to ask you, thanks, Carl. I am taking now carnitine as I'm getting older, thinking maybe that would be a good source rather than actually eating meat. And the other question is why, and I think it's true because I've asked other vegetarians too, that we tend to be sugar-based a little bit just for a kick. But I think I've been that way my whole life. But why would that happen because you're eating a more restricted diet? But I want to know about the carnitine too, if you would address that.
If you look at strictly clinical nutrition, the carnitine we prescribe to people who are going through dialysis. And that's the only situation we recommend carnitine. Yeah. So if you're not having any kidney-related problem, I don't think you really need them. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and then sugar. Sorry. That I'm not quite sure. It could be the fact that you are eating a restricted diet, and people think that if you're eating overall healthy, what's a little bit of sugar? There you go. Yeah.
I have two questions. For older people, say 60, 65 or older, how many grams of protein should they be getting a day? And are monocots like rice and dicots like beans still considered, when eaten together, to be a complete protein?
Yes. Okay, so the question is how much protein would you need if you're over 65? Now, typically, it's really individual. We base our protein requirements based on your weight. Okay, so RDA is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So it's about 1.6 grams per pound of your body weight. Okay, so 1 kilogram. So a pound is 1 pound. Sorry, I made a mistake. So 0.4 grams of protein per pound. See, I have a hard time going through imperial and metric. So about half a gram of protein per pound. Yeah. Even for older people. Yeah. Yes. Oh yes. So that would be a complete protein. So rice and beans. Yes. Yes.
I think it's very important to consider how we got here. If you're not a creationist, if you believe in evolution, then you can look to our ancestors and see what they ate. To get sugars, they had to climb bee trees and fight off the bees. They got most of their meat by running after something, so they didn't have much meat, and they had fish, and they got foods that could be preserved and dried, like seeds and beans and things like that. And they didn't get much salt unless they lived near the ocean. Captain Cook traveled all over the world, and he found the most helpful people were the Polynesians that got a lot of fish. So look to our past and see what those people ate and see how it can influence our future diet. And use skepticism towards many of these diets because there are recent factors that have been discovered. If you read thenewscientist.com, the New Scientist magazine, the British magazine, in the last several months they've had some very interesting studies on how gut bacteria affects what foods can be digested. These studies have been done with humans and with mice, particularly with relation to obesity. So take some of these diets with a grain of salt. Personally, I eat everything, a little bit of everything except parsnips.
A good one. Thank you for, and that's true. What did we eat in the past, and what are we eating now? And I think, when you go into the philosophical realm of diet, I think we're just eating eating too much of a lot of things. Yeah.
With someone with a moderately high cholesterol, how many eggs can they have a week?
I always get that question. Now, if you go onto the American Heart Association website, it's really confusing. You know, sometimes they say, oh, you eat only 2 egg yolks per week, and sometimes, oh, it's not the cholesterol, it's the saturated fat. So, so this is the thing. If you're vegan, and if you want to add eggs, I think you can eat as much eggs as you want. But if you're eating, because you're not really getting any other, well, a lot of saturated fat from other meat products. But if you're eating a flexitarian diet or a general diet, I think you really shouldn't be eating that much egg because you're getting all sorts of cholesterol and saturated fat from other sources of food. So protein, you know, eggs is a really good food. I don't refute that. It has the highest biologically available protein for humans. So I said, in general, try not to eat more than 2 egg yolks per week, but you can have as many egg whites as you like. Yeah.
I think we've run out of, so far in the cycle, we've run out of questions. Anybody we missed that wanted to ask a question? I have one, so if anybody else doesn't have one. Okay, tell me about this whiz-bang micronutrient diet phase which is going on now. Do you know anything about it? Is it any good?
What was
That's where you focus on only the micronutrient content and maximize that in your diet. You don't know anything about it?
No, I don't really know anything about it, but you know, from maximizing the food that has the most micronutrient value, it kind of makes sense because most of the food that has a lot of micronutrients are typically fruits and vegetables. Yeah. And whole grains.
Is this a myth? I hear that people who eat a lot of meat are carrying about 3 to 5 pounds of rotted meat in their intestines that they can't move out. It sounds good, but
that I'm not quite sure now. How fast people digest food is very different. Normal bowel movement is anywhere from half a day to 3 days. So depends on how long you tend to keep stuff in your gut. You know, that could be true. I don't know.